Bapak Ibu. Nggak apa-apa, lanjut aja Pak. Seru ya MBG. Jadi
Masih
MBG
ringan,
itu
Bu Dokter.
bagaimana? Apakah masih dilanjutkan programnya MBG?
Hmm?
Diberhentikan juga gaji pegawai nggak naik, Bu Dokter.
Nggak ngaruh gitu ya, Bu
Nggak
Dokter.
ngaruh. Kalau
Oh iya ya.
memang diberhentikan
Hmm?
terus gaji pegawai jadi naik, it's okay lah. Udah berhenti aja.
Iya,
Buka aja
betul.
lapangan pekerjaan buat orang tua. Atau kasih aja kayak KJP gitu ya, Kartu Jakarta Pintar ya.
Macam
Emang
KIP ya.
Kasih berbentuk
iya,
uang, jadi biar orang tuanya yang masakin anak siang, makan siangnya.
Pakai uang aja lah.
sebenarnya udah ada kan KJP, tapi
Kan
kan
khusus Jakarta doang.
oh iya, betul-betul.
Mm-mm.
Iya ya, belum merata ya.
Belum merata.
Arif, benar sekali. Baik Bapak Ibu, ya kita lanjutkan lagi ya MBG-nya nanti. Sekarang kita ke topik kita yaitu classroom management. Nah, yang di sini ada siapa tadi? Ada 5 orang ya. Ada Pak Haris. Siapa lagi tadi ya? Bu Esther. Siapa lagi yang akan presentasi?
Putri Andini dan Putri Ngawirabaya, Ibu.
Iya, oke. Ya, silahkan. Time is yours to present.
Oke, thank you so much Bu Dokter. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oke, good afternoon everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the Honorable Bu Dr. Nurjana and my dear classmate, my name is Putri Andini, and I'll be the moderator for today's presentation. Today, our group will present a topic entitled Classroom Management, Classroom Interaction, and Assessment in TESOL. In this presentation, we will discuss effective classroom management strategies, different patterns of classroom interactions, and the concepts, principles, and types of assessment that support successful language learning. We hope this presentation will provide a better understanding of how these three aspects contribute to effective English language and teaching. Okay, wait a second. All right, can you guys see my screen now?
Clear, Miss.
Okay, all right, thank you so much for responding. And then I think without further ado, I would like to invite our presenters to begin today's presentation. And the first presenter, it will be Miss Putri Ngawirabaya. Okay, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Putri, for the opportunity. So we go to the definition of classroom management. According to Everson and Winston, 2006, classroom management refers to the actions teachers take to create an environment that supports academic and social learning. So in terms of classroom management is not only about controlling students' behavior, it also involves creating an environment where students feel comfortable using English as the target language. There are four key elements of classroom management. The first one we can see on the picture, managing behavior. And then the second one is about organizing learning activities. And then the third one is maintaining student engagement. And fourth is creating a positive learning environment. Therefore, classroom management plays a crucial role in supporting successful language learning. Next slide, Miss. So next, we go to why is classroom management important in TESOL? Actually, classroom management is particularly important in language classrooms because teachers often face several challenges. For example, students may be afraid of making mistakes when speaking English. In addition, students often have different proficiency levels. Some students are beginners, while others are more advanced. Other challenges include limited opportunities to practice English, large class sizes, and low learning motivation. Effective classroom management help increase participation, reduce anxiety, improve language practice, and enhance learning outcomes. So, as a result, students become more confident and willing to communicate in English. Next, please. Next slide is about the objective of classroom management. So according to Hartmer in here, 2015, classroom management has several important objectives. The first is it creates a positive learning atmosphere where students feel safe and respected. And then the second one, we can see here that it maximizes learning time by reducing unnecessary interruptions. And then the third one is it encourages active students' participation. And the fourth, it reduces disruptive behavior that may interfere with learning. So finally, it supports language acquisition by providing more opportunities for students to use English meaningfully. Next slide. Next slide is about the components of classroom management. Actually, classroom management consists of three main components. The first component is the physical environment, which includes seating arrangements, classroom layout, and learning resources. Then, the second component is classroom procedures, such as attendance, group work activities, and assignment submission. And then the third component is behavior management, including classroom rules, expectations, and consequences. When these three components are managed effectively, teaching and learning become more organized and productive. Next slide, please. In this slide is about classroom rules and TESOL. Actually, classroom rules help establish clear expectation for students. Examples of positive classroom rules include speaking English as much as possible, respecting others' opinion, and participating actively in classroom activities. So, students should also avoid interrupting classmates, using mobile phones during lessons, and mocking others' mistakes. These rules create a respectful and supportive environment where students feel comfortable practicing in English. Next slide, please. So the second slide is about managing classroom interaction. Actually, interaction is essential in TESOL because language is learned through communication. Teachers should encourage teacher-student interaction through questioning, feedback, and scaffolding. At the same time, student-student interaction should also be promoted through pair work, group discussion, role plays, and information gap activities. These activities provide students with meaningful opportunities to practice English and develop communicative competence. Next slide. The next slide is about seating arrangement. Different seating arrangement can influence classroom interaction. Traditional roles are used because they allow easy classroom control and are suitable for tests. However, they provide limited opportunities for communication. And then the second in here is U-shaped. U-shaped arrangement encourage better interaction and allows teacher to monitor student more easily. Meanwhile, group cluster support cooperative learning and task-based activities because students can work together more effectively. Therefore, teachers should select seating arrangement based on learning objective and classroom activities. Next slide, please. And then this one is about classroom management strategies. One important strategy is establishing clear expectation. Students should clearly understand what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Another strategy is giving clear instruction. Teachers should use simple language, demonstrations, and visual support to ensure students understand the task. Clear instruction in here help reduce confusion and improve classroom efficiency. Next slide, please. And then in here we have positive reinforcement. According to Skinner's behaviorism theory, behaviors followed by positive consequences are likely to be repeated. This concept is known as positive reinforcement. Example include praise, stickers, and then bonus points, and verbal encouragement. Simple expression such as excellent answer and great effort can motivate students and increase their confidence. So, positive reinforcement also help to create a positive classroom atmosphere. Slide, please. Next, in here, we have managing large TESOL classes. Managing large classes can be challenging, especially in Indonesia, where classes often consist of more than 30 students. Several strategies can help. The first one is pair work. In here, pair work allows every student to participate in speaking activities. And then the second one is group work. Group work promotes collaboration and also communication. And then the third one here, we have classroom monitoring. Classroom monitoring enable a teacher to provide support while students are working. And then the fourth one, here we have technology, such as like we usually have Quizzes, and then Kahoot, Lookit, and Google Classroom can also increase engagement and participation. Next slide, please. So we have in here common problems in TESOL classroom. TESOL teachers often face various classroom problems. For example, like shy students can be encouraged through pair work. And then the second one is about low motivation. For low motivation student can be addressed by using games and maybe real life topics. The third one, we have mixed abilities. Mixed ability classes can be managed through different tasks. Then there is overuse of the first language or L1. And in here can be reduced by gradually encouraging English use. And then in here we have disruptive behavior, which can be minimized through clear goals and routines. These strategies help create a more effective learning environment. Next slide, please. Okay, in this slide, we have classroom management and learner-centered teaching. Modern TESOL emphasizes learn and centered teaching. In this approach, the teacher is no longer viewed as the sole source of knowledge. Instead, the teacher acts as a facilitator who guides, monitors, and supports students. Students are expected to explore, collaborate, and communicate actively. So this shift encourages autonomy and meaningful learning experiences. Next slide, please. In here we have classroom management in Indonesian context. In Indonesia, TESOL teachers face several challenges. Actually, many classrooms are large, and then it consists of 30 or maybe 40 students. And students have diverse proficiency levels, and exposure to English outside school is often limited. To address these challenges, teachers can implement cooperative learning, or maybe PBL, project-based learning, or maybe PJBL, PBL, problem-based learning, or task-based learning, and interactive digital tools. So these approaches help increase engagement and provide more opportunities for meaningful language use. Next slide, please. So the conclusion to classroom in here is we can conclude that effective classroom management is essential in TESOL. It creates a positive learning environment and then encourages communication, maximizes learning opportunities, supports language acquisition, and improves student achievement. Without effective classroom management, even the best teaching methods may fail. Therefore, TESOL teacher must develop effective classroom management skills to support successful language learning and meaningful classroom interaction. That's all from me. Next will be continued by, yes, back to Miss Putri.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Miss Putri Ngawi. Okay, the next presenter, it will be Mr. Haris. Okay, Mr. Haris, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Putri. Okay, guys, right now, time for me to explain about assessment. All right. What is the assessment? What exactly is language? What exactly is assessment? In TESOL, it is a semantic way to see what students can actually do with the language. It is not just paper and pencil tests. It includes Everything from portfolio reviews to observing how students speak during group work. It tells us what they know and what they need to learn text. So in here we can say assessment is an ongoing, systematic process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting evidence about a learner's language competence and performance to support and improve their learning. The next slide. Okay, guys, now we are going to principles of assessment. Okay, talking about principle of assessment, there are 5 principle of assessment. Okay, any assessment we design must follow 5 core principle. First, practicality. Is it affordable and realistic to run? Second, reliability. If the same students takes the test tomorrow, or if a different teacher grades it, will the score be the same? And the third principle about validity. It means if we want to test speaking skills or multiple choice grammar tests invalid, we must actually make them speak. The final 2 principles are crucial for language equations. The fourth is authentic. It ensures that our classroom tests mimic real-world communication. Lastly, it's about WASBAC. WASBAC is the impact of the test. Positive WASBAC happens when the preparation for the test actually makes the students a better language user. Okay, now we are going to the next slide. It's about types of assessment. All right, now let's look at the types. We categorize them into different frameworks. The first is formative versus framework. Formative versus summative. Formative is like a chef testing the soup while cooking. It is done to fix the flavor, while summative is serving the soup to the guests. It is the final judgment at the end of the course. And then the second framework is how we interpret scores. Norm reference tests compare students against each other to find the top percentage. The next, criterization reference tests don't care about other students. They only care if a student meets the specific learning standard or rubric. And then finally, we compare traditional and alternative assessment. Traditional assessment uses one shot, multiple choice, exams that look at language in isolation. And then the last, alternative assessment, looks at performance over time using project, portfolios, and self-reflections, which capture a true picture of language proficiency. So this is about types of assessment. And the last, we go to conclusion about assessment. To conclude, as advanced educators, we must remember that no single assessment type fits every situation. We must blend validity, reliability, and practicality while choosing the right tool, whether formative or summative, to ensure our students truly develop their communicative competence. Okay, thank you. I'm again to Ms. Putri.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Haris. And then the next presenter, it will be delivered by Miss Esther. Okay, time is yours, Miss Esther.
Okay, thank you, Miss Putri. Now let's move on to the last topic of our presentation, which is about classroom interaction. Before discussing its types and strategies, let's first understand what classroom interaction actually means. The definition: classroom interaction is the communication process between teachers and students, as well as among students themselves during the teaching and learning process. According to Brown in 2007, interaction is the collaborative exchange of thought, feeling, or ideas between two or more people. This means that learning is not simply about the teacher delivering information. Instead, learning becomes more meaningful when students actively communicate, ask questions, share opinion, and learn from one another. Okay, look on the right side of the slide. We can see four important keywords. The first one is communication, because language develops through communication. The second keyword about the participation, because every student should have the opportunity to be involved. The second keyword about the collaboration, because students learn effectively when work together. And finally, meaningful learning, because interaction helps students understand concept more deeply. Okay, let me ask you a question. Which classroom is more effective? The first one where only the teacher speak for 40 minutes, or the second one where students actively discuss and exchange ideas? Of course, the second one, right? That is the essence of classroom interaction. Okay, next slide about why is classroom interaction important. Now, why is classroom interaction so important, especially in English language teaching? The first one, it increases student participation. Instead of becoming passive listeners, students become active learners. The second one, interaction improves communication skills. Students practice expressing ideas, asking questions, and responding to others in English. The third, it develops critical thinking, because students are encouraged to analyze, compare ideas, and solve problems together. The fourth, interaction builds confidence. The more students speak in class, the more confident they become using English. Finally, classroom interaction and enhanced language acquisition, because students learn language through authentic communication rather than memorization. In short, interaction creates an active classroom where students learn by using the language. Okay, the next slide about the type of classroom interaction. In this slide, there are four common types of classroom interaction. The first is teachers to students. Here, the teacher explains lessons and then asking questions and provide feedback. The second type is student to teachers. Student ask questions, next respond to explanation and express their opinion. The third is student to student. This usually happens during fieldwork, discussion, or role play. The fourth is group to group. Group present project, debate ideas, or participate in project-based learning activity. And effective English classroom combine all four types instead of relying only to the teacher explanation. Okay, the next about the pattern of classroom interaction. The next slide about the pattern of classroom interaction. Okay, besides the type of interaction, we also have different interaction patterns. The first pattern, teacher to student, where information flow mainly from the teacher. The second is teacher and students, where communication becomes two-way. The third is student to student, allowing learner to practice English with their peers. The fourth is student to group, allowing learner to practice English with a large group. Finally, group to group encourage collaboration through discussion, presentation, or debate. Okay, as shown in the question on the right, a modern teacher acts as a facilitator, not just a source of information. Today, teacher guides students instead of dominating classroom communication. Next slide about the classroom interaction in communicative language teaching. The next slide, Miss. Okay, thank you. Now let's connect classroom interaction with communicative language teaching or CLT. CLT focus on helping students use English for real communication. Some important characteristics include student-centered learning, authentic communication, meaningful tasks, peer work, group discussion, information gap activities, role plays, and problem solving. In this approach, the teacher has several important roles. The teacher becomes a facilitator, helping students learn independently. The teacher is also a motivator, encourage students to participate. As a guide, the teacher provides support whenever needed. Finally, the teacher acts as an observer, monitoring students' progress and giving constructive feedback. The next slide about the teacher talk versus student talk. This slide, we will compare teacher talk and the student talk. Teacher talks include giving instruction, explaining lesson, providing feedback, and managing the classroom. Meanwhile, student talk includes asking questions, discussing ideas, negotiating meaning, expressing opinion. Okay, next about the factor effective classroom interaction. Several factors influence classroom interaction. First are teacher factors, such as teaching style, questioning techniques, feedback, and classroom management. Second are student factors, including motivation, confidence, language proficiency, and willingness to participate. The third are environmental factors, such as seating arrangement, learning media, and classroom atmosphere. These three factors work together. Even if a teacher uses excellent teaching method, interaction may still be limited if students lack confidence or if the classroom environment does not support communication. The next slide about the strategies to improve classroom interaction. To improve classroom interaction, teacher can apply various strategies. For example, think, create, share, role play, debate, information gap activity, problem-based learning, project-based learning. And then technology can also increase engagement. Teacher can use digital platform like Kahoot, Quizzes, and then Padlet and Mentimeter. This activity encourages students to communicate naturally while making learning more enjoyable. The next slide about the challenges and the solutions. Okay, although classroom interaction is important, teachers often face several challenges. For example, some students are passive, and then a good solution. Some students are passive, so the solution using icebreaking activity. The second challenge, some students have low confidence. Teacher can overcome by giving positive feedback and encouragement. And then the third challenge is limited vocabulary. So the solution, teacher can provide scaffolding such as useful expression or sentence starters. And then teacher-centered classroom can be improved through collaborative learning. Finally, limited classroom time can be addressed by giving clear instruction and organizing activity efficiently. Every challenge has a practical solution if teacher plan carefully. Next slide about the conclusion. Okay, finally we come to the conclusion. Classroom interaction is essential because the first one, increase student participation, develop communication skill, enhances critical thinking, support language acquisition, and prepare students for real-life communication. The most important message from this presentation is learning happens through interaction. Students learn English best when they actively communicate, collaborate, ask questions, and exchange ideas with others. Okay, that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I would like to return the station to our moderator, Miss Putri. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Esther. And then I think that will be all for our presentation. So now we're moving on into the Q&A sessions. And if you have any question, please raise your hand. You can just click the emoji that say raise your hand. Okay, we've got one. All right, two, three. Okay, all right. We will go to Mr. Tuhu. Okay, can you please mention what is your question about?
Okay, thank you very much for your kind explanation and my opportunity to ask a question. The question is that how does the definition of assessment reflect the shift from traditional testing to contemporary language assessment practices? Once more, how does the definition of assessment reflect the shift from traditional testing to contemporary language assessment practices? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Tuhu. We will just keep the question first, and then we will answer all of the questions at the end of the questions. Okay, and then the next one, Miss Atifatur.
Okay, my question is why is why is it essential to balance the five principles of assessment rather than prioritize only one or two principles? Please provide an example to support your argument. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And then the next one, Miss Emma. Okay, can you please mention what is your question about?
Okay. Compare formative assessment and summative assessment in the term of their pedagogical function and under what circumstance will each be most appropriate in a TESOL classroom. That's it.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Miss Emma. And then
You're
our
welcome.
and then the last one, it will be from Miss Zahra. Okay, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Putri. And my question is, based the presentation concludes that assessment should foster positive feedback. So what is positive feedback and how can teachers design assessment that promote it? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Miss Zahra. Okay, and then into the first question, I think Mr. Haris. Okay, Mr. Haris, can you please help me out to answer the question from Miss Zahra if you are ready?
Okay. Yes, Miss. Thank you so much. Education from Mr. Miss Jafar.
Sorry, Mr. Haris, I can hear your voice.
Sorry. Education about uh, WASBEC. Yeah? The point is about WASBEC.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Positive WASBEC refers to the beneficial influence of assessment on teaching and learning. Teachers can promote positive WASBEC by aligning assessments with learning objectives, incorporation, authentic tasks, providing constructive feedback, and using assessment results to improve instruction rather than merely evaluation performance. Such practice encourage meaningful language expression and learner engagement. I think that's my answer, Ms. Yaro.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haris, for the answer.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Haris. And then we're moving on into the next question. Miss Esther will help me out to answer from Mr. Tuhu's question. Okay, Miss Esther, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Putri. The question from Mr. Tuhu, how does the definition of assessment reflect the shift from traditional testing to contemporary language assessment practice? Okay, I will answer. The definition of assessment reflects the shift from traditional testing to contemporary language assessment by emphasizing the assessment is an ongoing process of gathering information about student learning rather than simply assigning grades at the end of instruction. In traditional language assessment, the primary focus was on summative tests such as paper-based examination that measure student knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. Success was often determined by a single score, and assessment mainly served to rank students or evaluate final achievement. In contrast, contemporary language assessment views assessment as an integral part of the learning process. It includes formative assessment, self-assessment, peer assessment, portfolio, project, presentation, and perform-based tests. This method provides continuous feedback that help both teacher and student identify the strengths, address learning gaps, and improve performance over time. For example, instead of assessing speaking ability only through a final oral exam, a teacher may observe students during classroom discussion, provide feedback after role play using peer evaluation, and ask students to reflect on their own speaking progress. This approach not only measures learning outcome but also supports student language development through the course. Okay, I think that's the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Esther. And then the next one, I will try to answer from Miss Atifatur's question. So I will repeat one more time for the question. Why is it essential to balance the 5 principles of assessment rather than prioritizing only 1 or 2 principles? Okay, and I will also provide an example. The 5 principles, such as practicality, reliability, validity, authenticity, and washback, are interdependent. An assessment may be highly authentic but impractical due to time or resource constraints, or highly reliable but lacking authenticity. Effective assessment requires balancing all 5 principles to ensure meaningful and feasible evaluation. For example, an oral presentation may be authentic and valid but requires well-designed rubrics to improve reliability. Okay, I think that would be all from my answer. Okay, is that clear, Miss Atifatur?
Yeah, thank you, Miss.
All right. Okay, and then the next question. Okay, I think Miss Putri Ngawirabaya will help me out to answer the next question.
Thank you, Miss. So let me repeat the question of Ms. Emma. It's about comparing formative assessment and summative assessment in terms of pedagogical function. Okay, so here is the question. Actually, in TESOL, formative and summative assessment have different pedagogical goals. The first one is formative assessment is ongoing and used during learning to monitor progress and give feedback that helps students improve. It focuses on the learning process, not final result. Example include quizzes, class discussion, speaking practice, and writing prompt. It is most appropriate when students are still developing skills and the teacher needs to adjust instruction based on their needs. And summative assessment is given at the end of the lesson, unit, or course to measure overall achievement. Actually, it focuses on final performance, such as exams or maybe final projects. It is most appropriate for grading, evaluating mastery, and determining whether learning objectives have been achieved. So, in conclusion, or in short, formative assessment supports learning during the process, while summative assessment evaluates learning outcomes at the end. I think that that's my answer. Miss Emma, is that clear?
Clear, Miss. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for answering the questions. And I think that will be all from our group, and we've already answered all of the questions. And thank you everyone for your active question, for the active responding again. And I think that will be all from our group. Thank you so much for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oke, Bapak Ibu, ya. Talking about classroom management, interaction, and assessment, ya, they are very interesting. Kenapa? Ya, karena kan itu apa? Sehari-hari yang kita akan lakukan. Tadi yang sudah dijelaskan oleh para penyaji ya. Di sini kan ada Pak Haris, Bu Esther, dan Double Putri ya. Putri Andini and Putri Ngawirabaya. Ini kok pas banget.
Yes, ma'am.
Iya. Ya, itu sudah jelas ya tentang apa sih tes sumatif. Nah, kalau kita bilang dulu tes sumatif ya, kalau sekarang apa formatif gitu ya, formative assessment, sumatif assessment. Lalu tadi yang sama Pak Tuhu ya ada contemporary and traditional assessment gitu ya. Kalau contemporary itu kan apa? Hal-hal yang apa ya, selalu yang ada berkelanjutannya. Nah, seperti itu. Misalnya ada proyeknya. Kalau zaman dulu kan kita cuma mungkin yang tradisional menilainya pada akhir gitu ya, sumatif saja. Tapi kalau yang kontemporer itu ya prosesnya, proses dalam pembelajarannya. Nah, Bapak Ibu yang apa ya, yang lebih menarik lagi, ini coba deh yang di public school pasti kan ada ya anak-anak ABK. Nah, bagaimana tuh? How to handle for the siswa yang kebutuhan khusus itu? Karena kan pastinya penanganannya beda gitu. Khawatir mungkin Bapak Ibu yang sudah merasakan mengajarkan anak tersebut lalu menjadi pusat perhatian siswa lain. Nah, seperti itu kan atau mungkin merasa terganggu dengan yang lainnya. Nah, gimana nih? Kan kita sekarang lagi ngomongin classroom management. Ya, silakan. Kalau tadi kan ini idealnya kan kita seorang guru seperti ini loh, kelasnya gitu kan Bapak Ibu. Yang kognitifnya bagus gitu kan. Sama semuanya. Nah, tapi bagaimana kalau misalnya kita dapatkan ada siswa yang berkebutuhan khusus. Kalau sekarang namanya CIBI ya Bapak Ibu ya? Pernah dengar?
CIBI, Mem? CIBI apa, Mem?
Ya, sama. Siswa yang memiliki kebutuhan khusus juga penanganannya. Kan kalau kebutuhan khusus beda-beda kan. Ada yang IQ-nya pinter, tapi kita susah nih. Attitude-nya kurang gitu kan. Itu kan perlu penanganan juga.
Kalau Cibi itu ini, Mem, apa
Apa tuh?
cerdas, istimewa, bakat istimewa. Jadi dia lebih di atas rata-rata.
Iya, betul.
Ah,
Tapi tadi attitude-nya ya mungkin susah gitu kan mengimbanginya.
betul.
Nah, jadi kan sama aja ya, apa memberi kita harus menanganinya. Nah, silakan Bapak Ibu. Mungkin ada yang punya.
Izin sharing pengalaman, Mem.
Ya, boleh.
Di tempat sekolah saya mengajar, Mem, SMK, kami tidak boleh menolak siswa istimewa ya, Mem, ya. Jadi di ada banyak. Jadi sempat saya mengajar di satu kelas, yaitu di kelas 10 DKV. Ada memang dua anak yang istimewa. Yang pertama ini istimewanya dia sepertinya intelektualnya itu kurang gitu, Mem. Dan usianya juga jauh tua. Dan satu lagi ada yang memang dia introvert. Jadi dia tuh kalau belajar pakai headset terus. Jadi dia nggak suka bising. Nah, jadi ketika saya mengajar, saya memberikan tugas seselesainya aja gitu, men. Mau dia menulis selesai atau tidak, jadi saya tinggal kasih checklist aja gitu, men. Jadi memang agak dibedakan dari segi pelajaran juga. Untuk nilai ya paling saya kasih KKM atau lebih sedikit seperti itu. Jadi memang dalam proses belajarnya juga sedikit dibedakan. Seperti itu. Itu sih memang pengalaman demikian.
Bapak Ibu sebentar ya, kita dengarkan kumandang azan dulu. Ya, ya terima kasih ya Bu Putri ya sudah memberikan pengalamannya. Ya artinya memang kita ya harus membedakan ya cara pengajaran seperti apa. Karena memang ya di kelas anak saya juga sama ya temennya tadi ya Kibi ya anak istimewa. Dia itu duduknya sendiri gitu ya sendiri ya karena mungkin kalau misalnya duduk berdua sama temennya pastinya nanti akan apa ya terganggu lah teman yang lainnya jadinya sendirian karena emang tiba-tiba anak tersebut itu keluar keluar aja gitu ya tanpa ngomong tanpa apa gurunya sedang menjelaskan dia keluar aja gitu tapi teman-temannya sudah mengetahui lah karena kan tadi ya anak istimewa. Nah, mungkin Bapak Ibu ada nggak yang punya pengalaman kalau anak Cibi itu duduknya di depan aja deh, ya di depan apa ya, dekat sama gurunya supaya lebih terpantau. Atau bagaimana kira-kira Bapak Ibu? Masalah duduk, ataukah memang harus sendiri, dipisahkan, atau harus berdua sama temennya? Halo, kok diem? Gimana Pak Arief?
Ya, setuju dengan Bu Dokter, setuju.
Setuju gimana? Enggak, kan yang tahu di lapangan, nah, Bapak Ibu seperti apa?
Ya,
Mungkin tidak semua, gimana?
Cibi itu kan cerdas
Hmm,
istimewa,
ya,
pintar istimewa ya. Dan dia
iya,
memiliki IQ rata-rata di atas 130.
mm-mm,
Dan memang terhadap anak-anak ini kebutuhan khususnya adalah lebih lebih tinggi dibanding anak yang lain. Dan
Ya.
yang paling cocok memang diberikan program akselerasi ya Bu Dokter ya.
Heeh.
Hanya saja kan sekolah umum kayak kami kan nggak ada program akselerasi. Walaupun ada
Mm-mm.
tentu atas izin dari Dinas Pendidikan atau pemerintah. Dan memang anak-anak seperti ini memang selangkah lebih maju kalau kalau menurut perspektif saya ya, karena memang
Mm.
IQ-nya di atas rata-rata. Beda dengan anak-anak yang lebih kepada keterbelakangan gitu ya, atau di bawah IQ-nya di bawah, ini kan berkebalikan seperti itu.
Ya.
Jadi memang harus ada perlakuan khusus. Di sini berarti asesmen diagnostik di awal itu memang sangat penting, sangat perlu. Dan di sekolah saya itu di kelas 7 ada yang namanya psikotes, kerjasama dengan lembaga psikiater, sehingga bisa kita tahu anak ini masuk ke kategori anak yang seperti apa. Kira-kira seperti itu, Bu Dokter.
Oke. Nah, tadi bagus banget ya. Ada asesmen diagnostisnya ya untuk awalnya. Karena apa? Biasanya kalau apa ya, pertama kali orang tua bisa kan menyembunyikan, oh anak saya ini baik-baik aja kok. Ya baik-baik aja kok sampai tidak terdeteksi, oh ternyata gurunya mendapatkan ini kok beda ya siswanya. Ada nggak yang seperti itu Bapak Ibu?
Ada, Bu Dokter.
Ada ya.
Sekolah saya kan 3 tahun lalu itu menjadi sekolah yang memang oleh Dinas Pendidikan untuk diarahkan anak-anak yang berkebutuhan khusus model apapun diterima di sekolah saya.
Ya.
Dan ada yang kita jadi kehambatan terbesar adalah ketika orang tua itu tidak mengakui anaknya
Mm-mm.
berkebutuhan khusus. Bahkan menjadi sangat marah ketika kita diajak bicara diskusi terhadap anaknya. Baru
Iya.
ketika kita hadirkan psikiater, baru orang tuanya mengakui. Nah, saya bilang ini kan kita mencari solusi, bukannya memojokkan, bukannya mengintimidasi, bukannya membeda-bedakan. Kita cari solusi bagaimana kita nanti bisa memberikan pelayanan terbaik terhadap kebutuhan pendidikannya. Baru orang tua ngerti ketika kita parenting seperti itu, Bu Dokter.
Iya. Artinya banyak problematika ya Bapak ya tentang apa tadi pendidikan. Ya kan harus ada kerjasama dong antara orang tua sama siswanya lalu sama gurunya. Baik. Nah, tadi ya yang sudah disebutkan macam-macam assessment. Kalau sekarang itu kan assessment ada ya Bapak Ibu ya tentang sikap. Gitu kan Bapak Ibu? Penilaian sikap. Benar nggak? Nah, kalau penilaian sikap itu nilainya apakah setiap hari atau bagaimana Bapak Ibu? Kesehariannya dia siswa di kelas ataukah tertentu saja? Halo, diem. Penilaian sikapnya gimana? Karena kan seperti ini ya, anak-anak itu sangat sekali sangat apa ya bad swing gitu ya. Apa sih namanya tuh suka nanti moodnya terkadang bagus, terkadang tidak. Terus seperti apa Bapak Ibu untuk penilaian sikap ini? Kenapa ya aku pada diem aja ngantuk atau bagaimana Bapak Ibu? Ya udah kita udahan saja nih.
Saya coba ini ya,
Oh
coba
iya, silakan Bu
sharing.
Nurina. Ya,
Mohon maaf jika tiba-tiba menghilang, saya masih di perjalanan.
ya,
Terkait dengan penilaian sikap siswa ya, Mem ya.
ya.
Kalau saya biasanya dilakukan sehari-hari, Mem, selama pembelajaran bahkan. Jadi ketika misalkan penilaian kan bisa dilakukan secara kualitatif deskriptif ya Mem ya, dengan menggunakan yang pertama bisa observasi. Itu kan bisa berlangsung selama kita mengajar. Bisa juga dengan penilaian diri gitu. Ataupun bisa juga dengan penilaian antar teman Mem. Gitu. Jadi misalkan memberikan proyek kepada anak, kita bisa melihat anak ini apakah mandiri atau misalkan proyek kelompok apakah bisa bergotong royong dengan baik. Nah, itu mungkin di situ kalau saya sih ya, selama pelajaran biasanya atau ketika memberikan proyek, baik proyek mandiri maupun proyek kelompok. Jadi dilihat sikap anak seperti apa. Seperti itu.
Iya. Oke, makasih Bu Nurlina. Ya, tadi dilihat kalau misalnya memberikan proyek. Nah, kalau misalnya memberikan proyek, mana sih siswa yang aktif, yang apa ya, yang bisa bekerja
Aku
sama
bekerja
dengan
sama
teman-teman.
itu seperti
Iya.
itu. Terus kalau mandiri otomatis kan dilihat kemandiriannya anak-anak apakah mampu mereka mengerjakan sendiri dan seperti itu. Terus juga nanti kita bisa ngecek pendapat anak tentang teman seperti itu. Karena saya suka cross check itu ke anak-anak.
Ya.
Untuk penilaian sikap ya Mem ya. Jadi saya berdasarkan penilaian diri saya sendiri, tetapi juga penilaian anak-anak juga gitu. Nanti mungkinkah ada persamaan penilaian antara saya dengan anak seperti itu.
Iya. Nah, ini kayaknya tuh bagus ya, penilaian antar teman ya, Ibu ya. Cross check antar teman. Karena pasti kalau teman itu mungkin lebih tahu ya kesehariannya dia bagaimana.
Iya, Mem.
Oke.
Izin menambahkan. Saya setuju dengan apa yang dikatakan tadi Bu Nurlina, itu terkait dengan teknik penilaiannya. Terus apa yang dinilai? Nah, apa yang dinilai kalau di saya itu yang dinilai adalah sikap spiritual dengan sikap sosial. Sikap spiritual itu menyangkut dengan nilai-nilai keimanan, ketakwaan, toleransi beragama. Itu kita lihat. Nah, cara melihatnya tadi seperti disampaikan oleh Bu Nurlina dengan observasi atau pengamatan, kemudian penilaian diri sendiri, dan penilaian antar peserta didik atau teman. Nah, kemudian kalau yang dinilai adalah sikap sosial, maka dia menyangkut perilaku seperti sikap jujur anak, sikap disiplin anak, tanggung jawab anak, peduli, santun, gotong royong, termasuk juga percaya diri. Bagaimana secara pengamatan anak ini terlihat sikap sosialnya dan juga sikap spiritualnya. Kira-kira demikian tambahan dari saya.
Iya, terima kasih Pak Arif ya, nih lebih lengkap lagi. Nah, tadi ya, apakah penilaiannya itu sendiri-sendiri? Ya, misalnya penilaian sikapnya sendiri, lalu karena anak itu tadi apa ya, sikap sosialnya bagus kepada teman, ya tadi apa ya, spiritualnya bagus, apakah mempengaruhi nilai kognitifnya? Misalnya nilai sumatifnya nilainya 7 nih, tapi dia bagus penilaian apa ya tadi sikapnya. Apakah bisa ditambahkan atau tidak, Bapak Ibu? Apakah harus berdiri sendiri?
Kalau di saya berdiri sendiri karena di rapot tuh ada nilai sikap perilaku.
Oh gitu ya.
Tapi biasanya kan penilaian itu menjadi subjektif ketika anaknya santun, baik, rajin sholat, rajin ibadah, pasti guru nambahin.
Iya, iya. Ada rasa
Ada
apa ya?
rasa,
Nah, itulah.
bener.
Ada rasa beda kan gini. Kan kalau dulu ada yang bilang, udah yang ngajar itu aja deh, jangan. Jadi gila. Kalau untuk guru tidak bisa digantikan ya sama alat lain gitu kan. Mengajar itu tetap manusia yang mengajarkan. Karena apa? Kita ada rasa empatinya, ada rasa apa ya? Apa sih Bapak Ibu? Selain rasa empati apalagi? Rasa sosialnya tinggi. Tapi kalau misalnya diajarkan oleh alat, ya mereka cuma tadi ya menilainya secara objektif aja. Gitu Bapak Ibu. Bapak Ibu ada tidak yang pernah belajar, misalnya gini, belajar sama orang tetapi tidak pernah melihat gitu ya, face to face-nya tidak ada, tapi cuma diberikan tugas saja. Pernah tidak? Kalau mungkin pembelajaran apa sih? Pembelajaran ya artinya tidak dengan apa ya, luring, daring pun tidak seperti kita ya via Zoom, tapi melalui tugas aja, LMS misalkan. Nah, apa pendapat Bapak Ibu? Apakah pinginnya seperti itu, cuma tugas aja, atau kan harus ada? Nah, ya terpampanglah wajah-wajah para siswanya dan gurunya. Bagaimana Bapak Ibu? Halo.
Bu izin sharing.
Ya, silakan. Ayo.
Iya,
Apa
kebetulan waktu saya S1 saat itu saat sedang COVID ya. Jadi saya
Iya,
alumni
iya,
COVID.
iya.
Nah, saat itu pembelajaran fokus di LMS saja, tidak ada Zoom. Jadi guru memberikan materi PPT-nya, dosen ya, mohon maaf. Dosen yang memberikan materi PPT di LMS, sisanya kami diskusi. Jujur, itu tidak enak sekali karena satu, kami disuruh baca sendiri, mandiri, tidak ada penjelasan lebih.
Iya.
Terus kami disuruh diskusi di LMS. Posisinya, saya bertanya-tanya kepada dosen, apakah dosen membaca jawaban kami saat itu? Karena saya termasuk salah lima orang yang jawab selalu di awal gitu. Dan sisanya adalah teman-teman yang kebanyakan copy paste, mendaur ulang
Iya.
jawaban kami di akhir. Nah, saya bertanya-tanya, kenapa saya bisa dapat nilai segini, yang di akhir dapat nilai segitu? Dia yang lebih baik gitu dapat nilainya. Nah, di situ saya bertanya tuh, kenapa ya gitu. Padahal kan nyampein materinya juga tidak. Terus kami yang jawab lima apa namanya yang lima tercepat ini jawabnya sudah sangat lengkap. Kadang saya bacain semua jawaban teman-teman saya gitu. Bahkan kadang ada yang ngurang-ngurangin jawaban kami gitu dan itu tidak kena poinnya tapi nilai dia lebih tinggi dan itu saya merasa tidak adil. Dan rasanya kalau diterapkan ke anak-anak juga sekarang gitu itu udah nggak kena lagi apalagi anak sekarang kan tidak bisa belajar dari membaca membaca saja gitu.
Iya,
Itu sih jadinya tidak kurang tepat gitu kalau diterapkannya seperti itu.
iya, betul. Betul sekali ya. Ini Bu Rahmati kan?
Iya,
Ya. Ya.
betul.
Iya, artinya di sini apa? Kurang puas ya kalau misalnya cuma hanya apa PJJ gitu ya, pembelajaran jarak jauh tanpa ada tadi ya, face to face-nya tidak ada.
Tapi di
Oke.
apa di universitas terbuka kan gitu ya, Mem. Dia pakai LMS ya, Mem.
Iya, betul. Ada.
Karena kan memang dia menggunakan menganut sistem pembelajaran andragogi ya, pembelajaran orang dewasa. Ya mungkin kalau
Dewasa.
orang dewasa kan mungkin nggak perlu dituntun, udah tinggal kasih baca baca, tiba-tiba tugas gitu.
Iya,
Mm-mm.
betul, betul ya. Ya inilah pilihan gitu kan. Pilihan ya mungkin tadi ya. Kalau yang untuk tugas-tugas aja ya siswa yang sudah bekerja ya, mereka itu ya sibuk atau bagaimana gitu kan. Pembelajaran andragogik ya untuk orang dewasa ya, mereka bisa belajar secara mandiri gitu. Tapi jujur, Bapak Ibu sendiri bagaimana? Lebih enak mana sih gitu?
Enak mix, Mem.
Mix.
Iya.
Ya.
Enak
Iya.
langsung lulus, Mem.
Itu enak banget. Daftar,
Satu ya,
langsung
satu.
lulus.
Iya, ya sabar ya. Satu semester lagi kan Bapak Ibu. Baik Bapak Ibu. Nah tadi tuh ya menarik nih. Yang penataan kelas tadi kan itu saya senang ya PPT-nya bagus banget ya banyak apa ya ditampilkan gambar-gambar gitu kan. Jadi hidup ininya slide-nya. Nah tadi tuh yang untuk penataan kelas ada yang berbaris, ada yang apa berkelompok gitu kan, ada yang letter U. Nah, kalau yang berkelompok itu kan, nah gitu kan lingkaran. Itu bagaimana tuh Bapak Ibu? Kalau misalnya yang dapat dudukan di belakang, tiba-tiba gurunya kan di depan, berarti dia harus memutar badan itu apakah mengganggu atau tidak?
Mungkin Bu Dokter.
Hmm?
Ketika lingkaran, paling gurunya yang mobile. Saya pernah menerapkan ini Bu Dokter waktu itu izin ke apa namanya wakil sarana prasarana untuk mengubah denah tempat duduk ya Bu Dokter. Pernah saya terapkan seperti itu,
Iya.
memang kurang efektif karena apa ya? Kadang namanya saya acak ini Bu Dokter. Jadi mereka tuh nggak duduk dengan teman yang deket gitu. Jadi besoknya mereka pindah lagi. Dan memang kitanya harus mobile jalan-jalan ke belakang, jadi nggak duduk gitu. Ya memang minusnya capek sih, jadi mobile jalan-jalan gitu Bu Dokter. Gitu sih Bu Dokter.
Iya, iya. Oke ya. Ya berarti di sini gurunya ya yang harus apa ya tadi ya mobile ya aktif lah. Ya. Supaya tadi siswanya jangan apa ya jangan capek muter balik badannya. Oke, jadi nggak masalah ya Bu Putri ya. Memang seperti itu. Ya seperti itu ya harus ada berkelompok ya atau automatically ada yang di membelakangi guru, tetapi di sini gurunya harus mobile.
Ya betul.
Baik. Nah, Bapak Ibu, kalau di dalam apa ya football, soccer ini kan ada apa World Cup. Nah, itu kan apa sih kalau yang orang yang menggolkan, orang yang penampilannya bagus ya pada pertandingan itu, dia mendapatkan apa tuh Bapak Ibu? Ayo, yang suka nonton Piala Dunia, Pildun.
MPV.
Hah? Apa? Misalkan
MPV.
apa tuh? Singkatannya apa?
Apa Pak Arif? Lanjutkan.
Apa tadi pertanyaannya? Nggak fokus.
Lanjutkan Pak Arif.
Apa tadi, Mem? Sorry, Mem.
Iya, ya misalkan di apa? Kalau dalam Piala Dunia itu kan orang yang mendapatkan apa ya penampilannya yang terbaik lah gitu kan? Karena bisa menggolkan, lalu dia bisa menjaga gawang. Nah, dia
Oh,
mendapatkan apa
itu
apresiasi apa di situ?
top scorer. Kalau
Bukan,
banyak ngegolin itu top scorer, bukan?
bukan.
Man
Iya,
of the
bolehlah
match,
top scorer, tapi mendapatkan apa tuh dari FIFA-nya?
Oh, itu sepatu
Disebut
bola
disebutnya apa?
emas.
Iya, disebutnya apa? Bukannya bendanya, tapi disebutnya apa tuh?
Apa ya? Saya belum pernah sih dapet.
Bukannya belum pernah.
Bener
Ayo,
juga
yang
sih, Pak.
bukannya trofi, maksudnya istilahnya itu apa? Istilahnya itu apa? Kalau misalnya
Bintang lapangan.
bintang lapangan, iya, 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 oke.
of the match, man.
Nah,
Man
iya
of the match,
betul.
maybe.
Iya benar.
Yeah,
Man of the match gitu kan, man of the
yeah.
match. Nah, bagaimana Bapak Ibu? Apakah menerapkan seperti itu di kelas? Misalnya gini ya, oh misalnya Bu Rina nih Bu Rina di kelas ini bagus banget nih penampilannya hari ini ya, bisa menjawab, aktif dan lain sebagainya. Lalu Bapak Ibu sebagai guru ya pengen menerapkan tadi tuh man of the match ya, misalnya Bu Rina kan bintangnya di kelas nih. Ya, tidak perlu mendapatkan penghargaan trofi gitu, tidak perlu ya. Misalnya hanya sebuah apa, misalnya tadi ya, apa sih tulisan lah seperti piagam. Tetapi ya tidak usah piagam yang mahal-mahal gitu. Ya seperti kertas ditulis apa. Saya kira itu bagus juga ya Bapak Ibu ya.
Kalau di saya ada student in the
Apa tuh?
month. Student in the month.
Ya, student
Oh,
of the month.
iya, student of the
Iya.
month. Betul.
Oke. Terus begitu ya. Terus bagaimana tuh caranya?
Caranya
Apakah dapat
dari
piagam atau bagaimana?
iya dapat piagam, terus
Hmm.
dapat kalau yang di swasta dapat ini potongan SPP,
Mm-mm.
terus penilaiannya dari ya itu dari beberapa kali ulangan harian, kemudian penilaian
Mm-mm.
sikap,
Mm-mm.
gitu. Kemudian masuk kontestasi.
Iya. Oh, itu kok student of the month, bukannya student of the apa tuh? Student of the day? Nggak bisa ya, karena
Kita update tiap hari,
iya,
capek ntar.
Izin.
capek.
Jadi tiap bulan aja gitu
Tiap bulan aja.
pemilihannya.
Oh, gitu. Yang menilai siapa itu? Masing-masing
Yang
guru?
Masing-masing guru, kemudian guru
Masing-masing.
rapat menetapkan, oke, bulan ini
Oh,
siapa anak yang berprestasi.
iya. Terus bagaimana tuh respon dari siswanya? Apakah mereka berlomba-lomba?
Enggak juga sih,
Enggak juga. Padahal itu kan motivasi mereka ya.
enggak juga. Ternyata buat generasi sekarang enggak juga, malah mencibir
Hmm?
gitu.
Oh ya.
Iya ada sih, nggak jadi mewakili. Ada juga yang ngapain sih, udah bodo amat gue mah apa adanya gitu, anak-anak. Ya elah
Beda
gitu
ya, emang
doang,
mentalnya
anak-anak tuh gitu,
sekarang.
ya elah gitu doang,
Betul,
gitu
anak
doang.
sekarang jiwa kompetitifnya
Jiwa
kurang ya,
kompetitifnya
Pak.
kurang,
Kurang
iya
ya.
betul.
Oh,
Ah,
bener bener bener.
dokter
Apalagi
saya
kalau
izin.
ranking
Oh,
satunya dia terus. Aduh.
Iya,
Mm-mm.
betul.
izin share, Bu
Ya,
Dokter.
ya
Jadi
silakan
kalau
silakan.
di sekolah saya ini beda
Mm-mm.
tingkatannya ya. Jadi saya emang TK ya gitu kan. Nah, kalau di saya itu emang udah ada schedule-nya itu namanya kalau dulu kita sebutnya teacher assistant kayak gitu.
Oh ya.
Tapi sekarang kita bilangnya leader kayak gitu. Jadi kita emang jadwalkan anak-anak itu untuk apa ya kayak jadi membangun leadership-nya dia dengan men-in-charge dia menjadi teacher assistant atau helpers. Di mana kan kalau anak kecil tuh paling suka dilibatkan kayak gitu. Jadi kesempatan yang seperti itu yang kita ambil. Jadi kayak setiap hari kita akan putar anak-anaknya, eh, maksudnya dijadwalkan siapa yang menjadi teacher assistant atau helpers kayak gitu. Jadi untuk yaitu diharapkannya untuk memotivasi siswanya kayak gitu, yang lainnya. Dan alhamdulillah itu juga cukup membantu sih. Jadi nggak cuman memotivasi temennya, tapi juga buat dirinya sendiri, melatih leadershipnya dia, kepemimpinannya dia, dan alhamdulillah juga dapat respon positif dari orang tuanya. Jadi anaknya mungkin lebih confident seperti itu.
Mm-mm. Ya, terima kasih Bu Atifatur ya atas sharing pengalamannya. Ya, ini bagus banget ya kalau untuk sekolah TK ya tadi ya TK atau SD mungkin masih bisa ya diterapkan tadi ya teacher assistance atau leader assistance. Ya, leader assistant di sini kan artinya apa? Kalau anak-anak kan ya apa ya senang aja ya misalnya di apa ya membantu guru-guru meminta anak tersebut tolong dong ini tolong dong itu pasti kan senang sekali gitu seperti dulu waktu SD. Nah di SD waktu saya dulu guru meminta saya untuk menulis apa gitu ya di papan tulis atau di bukunya guru saya. Nah artinya situ saya apa memiliki kebanggaan nih bisa membantu guru. Oke, bagus sekali ya Bu Ati Fatur. Kalau tingkat SMP, SMA ya mungkin ya tadi apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Arif, ya jiwa kompetitifnya masih belum ya. Ya karena tadi ya beda ya kalau untuk dewasa. Seperti apa gitu. Baik Bapak Ibu, apakah ada lagi yang ingin ditanyakan atau sharing-sharing? Karena kalau di sini Bapak Ibu pasti ya apa ya, semua sudah menguasai ya. Cuma bagusnya kan saling sharingnya ini yang diperlukan. Ada lagi tidak Bapak Ibu? Oke, kalau tidak
It's
ada,
enough.
oh ya, silakan.
No, I think it is enough.
Ih, tidak apa-apa ya. Masih ada waktu, Bu Nurlina, silakan.
Iya sebenarnya seru sih,
Nah,
seru banget diskusi sama Bu Dokter Nurjana ini luar biasa. Jadi kita banyak apa namanya pengetahuan yang kita dapat. Hanya saja waktunya terbatas ya Bu Dokter ya.
iya, betul.
Kapan-kapan kita undang ke Bekasi ya Bu Dokter. Kita FGD di
Boleh,
Bekasi.
iya,
Boleh.
boleh, Bang.
Nah,
Oke, makasih ya Pak Arif ya.
iya
Senang
siap Bu
sekali saya
Dokter.
ini.
Seru, udah diskusi sama Bu Dokter seru. Jadi berkembang.
Tapi yang lebihnya enaknya itu dari teman-teman, teman-teman semua ini, ya.
Iya,
Kan
artinya Bu Dokter bisa memberikan pemantik-pemantik yang pada akhirnya
oh,
kita jadi speak
ah,
up gitu
ah.
kan.
Masa apa ya? Saya ini sebenarnya lebih banyak belajar nih dari Bapak Ibu semua, dari Pak Haris, Bu Nurlina, ya semuanya nih saya belajar dari sini. Ya sudah ya, baik Bapak Ibu, saya kira cukup ya. Give applause untuk grup ini ya. Ada Pak Haris, Bu Esther, ya Bu Putri Ngaribaya dan Bu Putri Andini. Baik Bapak Ibu, siapa yang tidak hadir? Eh, hadir nggak ya? Siapa Pak Arif? Lupa deh. Siapa Maria ya? Kok Maria?
Mary.
Ya, Mary hadir tidak?
Bu Mary lagi di Thailand.
Oh ya,
Lagi
wah,
healing ya.
get holiday ya.
Lagi get holiday betul.
Bilang oleh-olehnya. Ya udah baik Bapak Ibu ya. Berarti bisa hanya Bu Mary aja ya, Patuh yang tidak hadir. Ya udah baik Bapak Ibu ya. Saya kira cukup ya untuk hari ini. Semoga bermanfaat ya. Saya akhiri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Ya,
wabarakatuh.
makasih. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Bu Dokter.
Terima kasih Bu Dokter.
Ya, sama-sama. Izin live ya Bapak Ibu.
Terima kasih Bu Dokter.